Good morning. This is Lisa Grennan, and I'm with MWR. And welcome to Breathwork and Regulating the Nervous System. This is part of our Suicide Prevention Awareness Month programming, and we'll have one each week, every Thursday for a half hour. And thanks for joining us today. I'd like to introduce our presenter, Chelsie Downs-Hubbard. And she's a certified wellness coach, a trauma-informed yoga facilitator, and behavioral change specialist and personal trainer. Wow, that's a mouthful, Chelsie.
Sorry.
Chelsie integrates her passion for mindful movement, body positivity, and intuitive eating into her wellness coaching to meet the unique needs of each of her clients. Chelsie is a mom of 3 boys and spends her free time working in her garden, free time with 3 boys, making art and spontaneous adventures with her husband. So thank you, Chelsie, and take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction and the opportunity to be able to share during your suicide screening month. It is something that is near and dear to our heart at SWMI Health Matters. We actually just had a colleague commit suicide 2 weeks ago. And so it is incredibly important to have these type of awarenesses, talk about how we can support one another, how we could really stop the trend and make sure that we're taking care of one another and hearing one another and supplying each other with the resources and practices that are needed to help to reduce the trend of suicide. So I come from, like she shared, I have a background in environmental science and anthropology. Actually, that's my degree, but it was after graduating college that I was really dealing with my own personal concerns and issues, and really stumbled upon yoga and movement and breath work as my own personal practices. And that just put me on a long journey into doing this for myself, doing this for my family, and sharing it with our patients. So SWMI is located in Kalamazoo, and we are a family medicine and holistic wellness center. And we specialize in both traditional medicine, so everything that your provider or doctor can do, as well as all the holistic modalities that we know are lifestyle medicine, prevention, and emotional system regulation. So the next 4 weeks, this one and then 3 after, Dr. Marty Peters-Sparling will be teaching the mindfulness-based stress reduction for next week. I'll be teaching chair yoga and more meditation and breath work the following week. And then Jenny Updike is our physician's assistant. She's the one who did the emotional freedom technique tapping video that you'll see, they'll send out. And she'll be doing for the last week of this month, the progressive muscle relaxation. So all 4 of these practices that we'll be sharing throughout these next few weeks are something that we work with our patients all the time, and we focus on for ourselves as self-care practices. So a little bit about breathwork and regulating the nervous system. So much of what we are now understanding about the nervous system is, this is kind of the physiological term, right? We have our nervous system, and there's 2 different parts of the nervous system, but how we see it in ourselves and how we can notice it in ourselves is really what we call our window of tolerance. So we have a window of tolerance. We each have that, and sometimes the window's a lot bigger than others. Some people have a much wider window of tolerance that they can where we kind of feel like this is the area of resilience, right? So, if you're looking at self-regulation of the nervous system and staying within your window and widening the ability for your window resilience, we look at the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and the balancing of our nervous system. So when we are kind of numb, apathetic, don't care, don't have energy, that's one end of it, right? We're kind of we're outside our window of tolerance. And then if we're agitated, angry, frustrated, you know, and we're feeling big emotions, again, we're outside the window of tolerance, but there's two different areas that we can be within that goes outside that window. And oftentimes what I see and what I hear when we're talking about this window of tolerance and how we can self-regulate our nervous system and get back in within that window, and also learn how to widen that window, people are often only talking about the agitated state, the frustrated state, you know, but we're rarely talking about the other end of the spectrum where we're feeling nothing or apathetic. And so one thing that I have found that has been incredibly helpful for our patients and for my wellness coaching clients is that power of pause, that ability to stop and find out where we are in the moment, because oftentimes people get into this automatic, you know, system of we do the same exercises, we do the same, we eat the same breakfast, we eat the same this, and we do the same all the time. But like you'll see, if you're already feeling low energy and apathetic in that way, and then you're doing a breath that continues to calm the nervous system, that's not helping us balance it. So the power of pause, oops, I'm just gonna mute somebody here. The power of pausing and checking in and finding out where we are in the moment, where we are in the day, how we're feeling. So then we can choose the practices that can help self-regulate our nervous system. So when we look at the sympathetic nervous system, that's kind of like what we talk about when we upregulate. So we want to have some activity, some arousal. A lot of times we're looking for more access to energy. And this can also, if it's gone too far, can be that flight or fight response where we're feeling sweaty palms, activated, and just maybe a little too much. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system gets a lot of attention because so many people are already heightened, whether we're eating a ton of sugar, drinking a ton of coffee, having to go all the time. So a lot of folks are looking to downregulate their nervous system to soothe, relax, calm, repair. This is also a time where we can rest and digest. So if we're constantly activated, are in that flight or fight, right? The energy is going out into our limbs, out to run, out to fight, and then we're not able to conserve that energy so it can go into physiological, you know, not practices, but physiological regulations of digesting your food, things that matter. So we need to be able to pause long enough to see where we're at, to see what we might need, and then act upon that with certain practices that can help begin to self-regulate the nervous system. And a lot of times this balanced nervous system is kind of in between that window of tolerance that we talked about. It's maintaining that equilibrium for ourselves and really kind of touching into a state of balance within. So when we look at this, and this is in the context of breath, but we can talk about this in the context of food. We can talk about this in the context of movement. There's lots of different things from the energetic standpoint that we're wanting to tap into. So this is a yogic term, Brahmana, and it's just basically meaning to build or increase energy. Okay, so this is, if we're attaching it to the nervous system, this would be that sympathetic nervous system combination. Now, Longana is again that parasympathetic nervous system to help downregulate. So we're trying to reduce excess mental energy, nervousness, feelings of anxiety, really to help stabilize and ground the body. And then the Samana Vita, that is, and these terms I know don't get too caught up on the terms, but that the energy of the terms is really what we want to do. But this is helping people again, feel that balance in them. And now, oftentimes people will not sure, they feel this tug of war within themselves. They're not sure what they want to do. And if anytime that you're feeling you're not sure if you want to build and increase your energy or reduce and calm the energy, then we would really tap into those Samavrita practices of balancing. And that helps kind of do both of those at once. And this is something that we talk a lot about in our trauma-informed practices, is this understanding of interoception. And basically, you know, very layman's terms, it's just being able to know what's going on inside our body. So one option can be just feeling our heartbeat or noticing our breath. Here I have examples of noticing when we're hungry, hot, cold. And with trauma in our lives, people have a really hard time understanding what's going on in our bodies. And especially for people with histories of trauma, which 70% of us have histories of trauma, interoception isn't always safe. Knowing what's going on inside your body isn't always safe. So one, learning how to, what we call osculating, is that when you are trying something new or going and doing something you feel fearful about or scared about or feels uncomfortable, we want to oscillate between playing with that edge of feeling uncomfortable and just keep kind of that window edge, right? We talked about widening that window of tolerance. So playing that edge, and then having these practices that are safe and grounding that we can kind of go back to and support ourselves. So we're constantly inviting ourselves to oscillate between what is uncomfortable, maybe checking in with ourselves, pausing long enough to find what it is, or I think about public speaking. You know, if you have a deep fear of public speaking, you might oscillate between that by trying something in front of your one person, your partner or your best friend, and then coming back to, once you feel that body activation, going back to these grounding practices that can help calm the nervous system. So that's the practice of osculating. A reminder to mute yourself if you're not muted, please, just so we don't have background noise. Thank you. So, but learning, so that's the practice of osculating between that, and then beginning to understand what's happening inside ourselves. And that's what I call the power of pause. And we have the ability to pause to find out what we want. We get out of that automatic loop that we're all in of just doing the same thing all the time, or maybe, you know, doing something that's in direct response to what's going on inside of our body that's making it worse, maybe more activation or more apathy. And so we want to be able to check in and pause and see where we're at. And there's some ways that you can do this, connecting with self, you know, becoming familiar with parts of yourself. We call this the integrated family systems in psychology, but being able to, you know, not only name what's going on, but really noticing it if you can feel it inside your body. So noticing the sweaty palms, noticing the tight jaw. If there's anything that this part has, like these deep beliefs that this part has, and beginning to really explore the whatever's going on, these big emotions that are happening, whether it's anger or frustration, or that, you know, like I said, that apathetic nature. Where is that coming from? And if we can understand it a little bit more and give ourselves time to pause long enough to think about where these come from and the emotions and the beliefs that it carries, then we're going to be more apt and more equipped to be able to figure out which practices that our bodies need in the moment, knowing that we do change moment to moment, day to day. And that's where we come in a lot of times with wellness coaching, because people come trying to do the same thing that they've always done, and it's no longer working. And so how do we recalibrate, reconnect with ourselves, reconnect with what's going on, and then choosing going forward with where we want to, how we're going to spend our energy to get ourselves back into this state of balance. So there's 4 aspects going back to our breath work. There's 4 aspects of what we call pranayama, or our breath. So we have the inhalation, and this is where we can start to, just as simple as a breath, can start to energize. So if we lengthen the inhale, or we extend the inhale, that can have an energizing effect. And on the opposite, if we lengthen the exhale, that can have a reducing, calming, soothing effect. Same thing with at the top of the inhale. If we inhale, fill our breath, hold and retain that breath, that is building energy within our body. That breath is in ourselves, and we are cultivating what we call the prana, or the life force within ourselves. If we exhale the energy, the breath out, and we leave that breath out of the body like an empty breath, empty lungs, then we can notice that that is a more of a calming. And again, we can use the retention of the breath either at the top or the bottom, depending on where we're at and what we're trying to achieve. So as simple as an inhale, lengthening the inhale can energize. You can even add an added effect if you want to hold that breath at the top. And we'll exhale, lengthen that exhale, hold the breath at the bottom. And we'll practice these in just a few minutes. So with this piece, this is one of my favorites. It's just called the 3-part breath. And this one is, we can really start to play with these 4 aspects. Okay, so I'm going to teach you a simple 3-part breath. And then we, depending on what you're feeling like today, if you're feeling kind of blah and flatlined, or if you're feeling agitated, then you can play with these aspects and get to choose what works best for you. So first, what is a 3-part breath? Now, this might feel a lot of times breath is so simple and so easy, and it's free. You can do it anywhere, anytime, that people discount it. And I feel like, you heard that I have kids, 3 boys, and they all discount this until, they need it, and then they start to activate it. But people discount the simplicity of it. Like, it has to be hard or big or important for it to be powerful. And so this is where I want to challenge you to know that the breath is the quickest, easiest, fastest, cheapest way to regulate your nervous system. So again, fastest, easiest, quickest, cheapest way to regulate your nervous system. And as simple as a 3-part breath can help support this. So you can see in this picture, if you're watching the video or watching the PowerPoint, or if you're on the phone, you will see a person sitting down in a cross-legged position with one hand over their heart and the other hand right over their lower abdomen. And so I'd like to invite you, and I'm going to close my eyes. You can choose to close your eyes or keep them open, whatever you feel most comfortable with. But I'd like to invite you to place one hand over the heart and the other hand over the belly. And before we try to cultivate any type of breath, without crafting it or changing it, I just want you to take a few normal breaths here. So let it just be a normal breath. First couple times. And with the next few breaths, just notice where the breath is going. So we call this tracing. We're tracing the breath into our body. Is it staying in the chest? Is it going down into the belly? Where is the breath going? Just noticing the breath in these next few rounds. And if you'd like to participate in this 3-part breath, if it's possible, breathing in and out through the nose. If you have allergies or congestion, it's okay to breathe in and out through the mouth. The nose slows down the process and you have to slowly sip it in. And so that's why we really try to encourage people to breathe in and out through the nose for this particular breath. And if you do mouth breathing, just go ahead and slow it down, maybe even pucker the lips to slowly sip it in. And we break it down to 3 parts because typically, I don't know about you, but most people, when they notice their breath, they're just breathing into the chest, that upper part of the chest. They're only using 1/3 of their lung capacity. And as we know, those short, quick breaths really are telling the body that it's not okay. There's something to be nervous about or scared about. Or we're really starting to energize the body with those quick, deep breaths, that flight or fight, right? When we invite the breath down, so if we can, I know this takes time because we've been taught to take a deep breath in, and most women especially have been taught to suck the belly in, and this is complete opposite of the 3-part breath. So if you're used to breathing in, sucking in, kind of puffing out your chest, it's going to take some time to get used to. But the most basic of the breaths is this 3-part breath where we're inviting in through the nose, letting the breath go down deep into the belly. So on the inhale, you first feel the belly expand, and it expands out in front into the sides, the diaphragm's pushing down, activating that vagus nerve inside our body. And then the breath goes into that middle part of the chest and then rises all the way up into the top. As we exhale, we go in the opposite directions. We exhale out of the chest, the ribs, and then all of the air out as the belly comes in towards the spine. So we inhale, invite the breath deep into the belly, let the belly expand out, up into the ribs, finally up into the upper chest, letting those collarbones lift. And we exhale out of our chest, our ribs, and the belly comes in towards the spine. I want to give you an opportunity to try this for a few more deep breaths on your own. We're inhaling through the nose, letting the belly expand and the breath rise. Exhaling on your own time. The hand on the heart and the belly is just kind of an anchor point so you can feel and trace the breath into the body. But if you at all need to let the arms rest, you can let them rest on the lap. If possible, keep seated where you're tall through the spine. So we're not slouching here. We're giving our lungs and our belly full capacity. Nice, long, deep breath in. Slow, smooth breath out. And checking in how you're feeling today in this moment. Are you feeling calm, relaxed, anxious, or kind of flat and blah? Just noticing how you're feeling in this moment. And choosing where you want to retain the breath. So you can, if you want that more balanced breath, you can inhale, hold it at the top for a few counts, and then exhale and hold it at the bottom for a few counts. If you're feeling low energy, maybe you just hold at the top for a little bit longer. So maybe instead of 3 counts, you do a 6 count hold at the top with an easy breath out. So we don't want to hold it so we're all of a sudden needing to take that deep breath. We can just notice, play that edge, notice how you're feeling, start to retain that breath, maybe build that prana within the body. Or if you're really needing to feel nourished and soothe, you can do that same thing where we're retaining the breath at the bottom for a longer count. And I imagine this breath, not only in our body, how we're kind of letting the breath move, you know, from the bottom all the way to the top and the top all the way to the bottom. But a visual that helps me is thinking about the Ferris wheel, how it's just slowly moving up and it never really stops, but it slowly moves down. And so we can think about that easy, smooth, calm breath up, choosing to retain, and calm, easy, smooth breath down, choosing if you'd like to retain at the bottom. And we'll do this for about 5 more rounds.